All right, so now people should start flooding in any moment soon. Yeah.
You can ask where people are from.
Yes, I will. If my computer actually responds to me, it's gone a bit haywire. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, as you are coming in, please do let us know where you are from. The States, London, well, England, Europe, wherever you're from. Just go to the chat box and type away, and it'd be great to know who's on the call. And I mean, I certainly can see who's coming in. So welcome to all of you as you are streaming in. Wonderful to see so many. And very diverse audience, actually, from across the pond, from the UK. Yes, Des Moines. Oh, that's Bill.
There's a special prize for anyone from Bristol.
Yeah, Chicago, Munich, Canada, New Jersey, beautiful Vermont, Texas. There we go. We've got some great, we've got some, good locations. Surrey, UK, perfect. Arizona, nice and warm. So we'll start in a few.
Should give an
minutes.
award to anybody who can dial in from Florida today. There should be a special award.
Yes. Well, no, greetings from Mississippi. So no
cool.
no one from Florida yet. But we've London. We've got quite a good distribution.
From Florida gets all of Bill's books.
Is that a penalty? They've already gone through a hurricane. You're gonna make more pain? Oh my gosh.
Oh yes, it's Bill's valet. Lisa's just said hi, Bill, and Bill's valet.
Lisa May is absolutely great. So a lot of my books you can blame on her because she reviewed them for me.
Oh, well, there you go.
Hello, yep. Lisa.
You might want to detract the comment now, Lisa. London. Okay, so yeah, good reading then, Bill. Yeah, exactly. Here's the format. Obviously you can see these wonderful people on the screen. We've got Bill and John, or Bill's valet now, as has been changed. So anyway, a warm welcome to all of you. Those who are joining now, and yes, it's going to be as per usual crazy. Please, engage. We want your engagement. We want you to get into this topic and subject. So, thank you for joining us. And we're here today to talk about creativity versus practicality, and have data scientists lost the plot? I mean, okay, I'll talk about the title in a second. So the event series is sponsored by DataZoom. DataZoom's mission is to help organizations create and deliver effective data strategies that lead to measurable value creation and meaningful change. So as part of this series, as I said, we always encourage participation. So you've got the chat box, you've got the Q&A function as well. I'll be monitoring what's happening, and I'll ensure that I bring in questions that you've laid out, and or you just want to give your feedback on a specific point. But what I'd really like to make sure, in the past we've had lots of questions, but sometimes I have to unravel the question. So please be specific in the question that you ask. And also, if you've got a statement, that's fine. You've got feedback, that's fine. I'll bring it in. The event is being recorded. And for those that registered and those that are attending, you will get an email with the link and access to watch it as many times as you wish, so you can see these beautiful faces again. I'd like to, oh God. I would also like to, again, welcome John and Bill, John Thompson and Bill Schmarzo, who are my partners in crime on this AMA series, and welcome, chaps. And today we've got new guests. We've got Somal Gupta and we've got Mark Staus. And thank you both for giving us your time today. Oh gosh, look, we got hands up already, Bill. So, this is an incredibly hot topic. And just to give you a few introductions on each of these people, if you've never seen, heard, or met them before, John is a global operation executive who excels at building and managing innovative, growth-oriented data and technology across organizations and across multiple industries. So he's a best-selling author of 2 books, Building Analytics Teams and Harnessing Analytics and AI for Business Improvement, and Analytics, How to Win with Intelligence. And he's a keynote speaker, innovator in AI, data and advanced analytics, and he's currently the global head of artificial intelligence, that's AI, and the Rapid Data Lab at CSL Behring. And Bill, affectionately known as the Schmarzo, and often referred to as the Dean of Big Data, is an influencer, an innovator, professor, and educator. And as well as that, he's authored 4 books: Big Data, Understanding How Data Powers Big Business; Big Data MBA, Driving Business Strategies with Data Science; Economics of Data Analytics and Digital Transformation; and The Art of Thinking Like a Data Scientist. An executive fellow, University of San Francisco, honorary professor at NUI Galway, and adjunct professor at Menlo College. And he is now the customer advocate data management incubation at Dell Technologies. Somil is an award-winning AI monetization advisor and founder of and CEO of Algorithmic Scale, that's based in Sweden. So it's about 6 p.m. for him now. He supports companies in modernizing traditional operating models, realizing commercial value from data and AI, and designing, operating, and scaling digital business to achieve commercial excellence and get return on digital investments. And finally, Mark is a large company CMO and CCO. I'm guessing that's the chief commercial officer, turned analytics software CEO. It's a bit like, your day job and, are you Batman or you Robin? Anyway, a pioneer in using analytics to plan, predict, prove, and pivot B2B marketing investments. Mark has founded Proof Analytics to help go-to-market teams quickly understand and optimize their value delivery in light of changing marketplace conditions. Today, Proof's partners and customers include companies like Bayer, Samsung, IWB, Johnson Controls, Salesforce, and other leading brands. He was named one of the most influential people in data science in 2020, despite actually not being a data scientist himself. How do you get such an accolade? I mean, that's crazy. Now,
big thoughts.
Hello from France. Wonderful. Mustafa, thank you for joining us. Now to the topic at hand and why we've gone for such a provocative title. Look, it wasn't clickbait. It wasn't there to shock. It was to outline a serious problem that we have in the data industry and the business world. And just to tee this up, who has lost the plot? You see, I'm sure that you've all heard of the one where an executive brings in an army of data scientists and expects them all to be wizards and witches and to make magical potions that will, well, do stuff, right? Worse than that, we have PhDs that command big salaries and then complain about what they're hired to do and what they're actually doing. So I think there's a key triumvirate here that needs to come together: the line of business, data and analytics teams. And again, I don't know why they're separated. Organizations separate these guys, just beats me. And IT, it defies belief. It's not the fault of a data scientist, not the fault of the business or the IT teams. The problem lies in language and speaking a common language in order to understand each other. And it's not about algorithms or back-end code or infrastructure or classification or fuzzy algorithms or greedy algorithms or overfitting. Look at that. My vocabulary has gone up in data science and tech. It's about the nature of how your output will support the business objectives and get the company from X to Y, which comes down to what does that mean in hardcore cash. So I was reading an article by KD Nuggets the other day, and the author was Natasha Selvaraj, and she wrote about the top 2 reasons why data scientists quit. Interestingly, the first point that she makes is about the mismatch in employer expectations, where the data scientists brought in to work on real-class, real-world machine learning problems and realizes that the company isn't mature enough and the data is basically in dire straits. We've all been there, probably all seen it, and it happens a lot. And I'm sure all the data scientists who are on the call are probably nodding their heads. So you end up brushing up on SQL and wrangling data, attempting to present the data in whatever format the business wants to make a decision with it, or in fact, they probably don't know what to do next. The inability to add business value. So, we talk about value. Value is a great term that's just bandied around. It's ironic because, there's no value in the term anymore. But, I think there's an old age gap between tech and business. Stakeholders and upper management are fairly non-technical. We know that. We understand that. So there's a lot of hype around the field because they hear all these terms bandied around. And as a data scientist, you probably hear some fairly ambiguous or ambitious statements or requests from your bosses, which are not defined in the right manner and not specific enough. So, goes back to, hey, these magicians will make it happen. So I think it's incumbent on us to agree and to explain to lines of business and to educate whether a project can be successfully completed and whether it will bring the results that they expect to see. But really, drill down on those things. And that's going to be one of the points I'll make in a second. But it's also useful. There's something else that we don't necessarily do, and that's to create a cost benefit before working on any kind of project, any machine learning project, so the company really knows and can collectively decide whether it's worth assigning time and resources. The second point that Natasha went on to talk about is not asking the right questions. And that's something, as a data scientist, you need to know if the models you're building will add that, will add those business results, basically. And so most data scientists I've seen, and unfortunately, I'm sorry, guys, but I'm just being straight here. And I've seen a quick to start a project based on the instructions they've been given. They don't ask the right questions. They don't try to understand their manager's train of thought, however crazy that might be. It's also a lack of domain knowledge that I see as well, where, in order to ask the right questions, you really need to know how that business works. How do they make profit? How do they actually run their, each of the divisions run their own businesses? So the models you build should be tailored to a domain-specific problem. You need to understand the impact it will have on the end user, the decisions they need to make, and how it will change the dynamics of the business. So my last point here is from Aidan Morrison, who wrote in an article, which I thought was quite funny, actually. Said it's comically stupid, but remarkably common. Data scientists get hired to rub, while executives wait for the genie to emerge and give them a song and dance before they come up with their 3 wishes. If they thought carefully about what their 3 wishes would be beforehand and what they are being granted would look like, they'd realize how ridiculous all the lamp rubbing really was. They might also find that the data scientist actually knows how to grant some of the wishes using science rather than magic. So I think it's incumbent on each other to understand where each and the other are coming from. So it's now time to deliver core business results. And, without the executive buy-in, which we know, without the hardcore cash, even the most sophisticated AI-derived model will sit idle, and data-driven decision-making will go in circles. So without further ado, gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. I would like 5 minutes from each of you and to hear your thoughts on the rub here. Somil, why don't you tell us your thoughts on this particular subject?
All right. So, so one of the core issues, if we understand why we are in this state, we have to understand where we are coming from. So after World War II, when we started getting into the scientific management, and we started getting, we started working with processes and rules, that kind of culture has permeated our organizations, so much so that when we talk about operating models, when we talk about business models, what we are referring to actually is enterprise architecture. So the ITification of the business has resulted in a situation where nobody really understands how business is actually done. People have somehow become cogs in the big machinery, big IT machinery. And that's one of the reasons, because from data scientist perspective, you believe that the business owners or the business leaders would actually know how business is done. Well, they do not. They have a slight idea, but most of that is actually based either on heuristics or past wisdom or guesswork or something that is built deep into the rules and processes, right? In fact, when SAP was first marketing itself, they marketed it, their offering not as a software offering, but as a one right way or the best practices. And it is that best practices that has permeated now in the organization. Everybody is trying to follow that best practices and hoping that there is one right way. Now enter data science, and the first paradigm or the first kind of mindset shift that we need in data science is to understand how can we do it better. Right? That means we need to be willing to change the way business is done. How do you do that if you don't understand how business happens in the first place? And this is where data scientists kind of end up, getting stuck, is because while they scoff at the idea of lifting and shifting a model trained on one data set to another data set, they apparently have no problem lifting and shifting a model from one problem space to another problem space. So you make an assumption on how this problem should be solved. You make an implicit assumption on what the constraints are. You make an implicit assumption on how the data should be represented. And then you say, okay, well, this is not adding value. Of course, it's not going to add value. For data science to add value, it has to integrate into the decision flow of how business is done. For that, we have to understand exactly how business is done. I think this gap that we have across all the, I'll say, all these stratas across the organization, right from the leadership to the operational managers to line managers to data scientists, I think how business is done is something that is not very clear. So without that clarity, without having that kind of a common language, as you said, it just becomes difficult. So what ends up happening is that people do what they feel comfortable with. So data scientists start writing code because that's what they feel comfortable with. The CDO start building platforms for some day when they will have 100 use cases, even though they don't even have 2 use cases right now. And the business guys, they have gotten so used to outsourcing that they want to outsource data science. And okay, this is the funny part. They want the change, but they do not want to change. The moment you talk about, okay, here's the model, it can do something, try it on your pricing, try it on your customer. No, we don't want to do that. Show me that it works with absolute certainty. That's not what data science does. So the lack of experimental mindset, the lack of understanding the basic business fundamentals, and it's not that they're not accessible, they are accessible. You understand, you take some time, you understand how the basic flows look like, how the basic processes look like, what are we doing, how the operating model actually works. It is very easy to understand and frame the problems in the way that it can be solved very easily with data science. Instead, we choose the hard way. And basically we take shortcuts, and that's why I think we are here.
Thank you very much, Somel. I'll go to Bill next.
So whose fault is it that organizations suck at data science and AI? I think it's really clear. It's the business. We're spending so much time, rubbing nickels against the data scientists and tearing them apart, that we forget that the organization that defines the strategy, defines what we're trying to do, which defines the objectives, is the business. And yet we're all pointing fingers at the data scientists like they're a bunch of screw-ups. That they are, they come in and they whine about what they don't do. Like, yeah, we should ask questions, but maybe the business should take some sense of ownership and clearly communicating what they're trying to accomplish. And that is, throughout the entire organization. They create an edict about what we're going to do, and they don't take the time to make sure everybody in the organization understand what it means to them. And to me, the analogy is like somebody who's a coach who's got a bunch of players and rolls a ball out and expects success, and then blames the players when they don't have success. Maybe they're at a basketball court and they rolled out a football, right? Maybe they play in basketball and they have 7 guys in a court or 3, right? So it's like the coach washes his hands of, well, it's not my fault. Those players suck. They don't play, right? But again, if the real issue here is around, have data scientists lost the plot? If they've lost the plot, that's not their friggin' fault.
Great.
Done.
Thank you, Bill. That was very specific. Mark, let's hear from you. I'm sure Mark's got something to say about that, Bill.
So it is absolutely true. I am not a data scientist, but I am a business leader who fell in love with data science almost 20 years ago and has championed it inside of very large organizations at a very senior level. And there's a lot of what has already been said that I really agree with, from the standpoint that this is a people issue, not a process or a technology issue. When I thought about this, before this show started, and I went all the way back in time, to a point of total ignorance as a business leader of data science, like didn't know jack. Okay. And this was sort of like pre-AI or pre-AI hype anyway. And I still looked at data science as like a magic pill, right? That you could drop in a sea of data and everything would magically align and come into full view. And it would just be, like I'm a medieval scholar when I'm not doing my real thing. And this is something that you see over and over again in the 15th century as things move from belief to science, right, during the Renaissance period, right? So I have kind of I tend, as a historian, I also tend to think of things in paradigms. And the paradigm that I think of here, which is actually highly representative of what Schmarzo, AKA Schmarty Pants, right, was saying, is Leonardo da Vinci and Lorenzo de Medici, right? Mm-hmm. The relationship, I mean, basically Medici was the money, and he was also really smart, right? But he was smart from I can really understand a lot, and I can conceptualize a lot, and I can learn a lot, but I can't do it, right? My skill sets are in other places. I can't do this stuff. And I need Leonardo, right, to do it. And he got really frustrated with Leonardo originally, right? He was like, because Lorenzo, man, he's a pragmatist, he's a political leader, just get the shit done, basically, right? And you have to remember that he hired Leonardo originally to make war machines. So this was a highly practical, power advancing kind of thing, right? And Leonardo wanted to paint, and he wanted to sculpt, and he wanted to do biology, and he wanted to basically explore. And one of the things that they got into, this is actually documented in both Leonardo's diaries and some court papers from Medici, right, is they had this big argument, really, about kind of a come to Jesus kind of conversation, where Medici basically told Leonardo, I can't do it without you, but you have to earn the right to explore. You have to do the things that I absolutely need you to do right here, right now. And when those deliver value, man, I'm a wealthy guy, man. I'll fund all the rest of your stuff, right? And I think that there's a huge lesson in this here. If you are, so we look at, as data science, I've lost track of how many conversations I've had with data scientists in the last 2 decades, but I understand the problem with data. I really get it, right? And so I understand the default mechanism that exists in the data science industry towards data management. Problem, though, is that data management, as crucial as it is, doesn't deliver value fast enough to buy you the right to do more of that. So you kind of have to give people the ice cream with the broccoli, right? But you can't do broccoli flavored ice cream. That doesn't work.
Oh, I tell my daughter all the time she's going to get broccoli flavored ice cream.
So that's kind of, I mean, that's where I kind of am starting here is, everyone's got to pay their own way here. It's just a stone cold fact of business, right? And if you're not delivering more value and seen, and this is key, seen to be delivering more value than what it costs to have you do it, okay, you've got a problem. And, if you want this, I'll wind it up here, right? If you want a really great, relatively recent example of this, you have to look no further than enterprise IT, post Y2K, right? This was a profession that just got absolutely slammed into the ground by corporate America, and has taken them every bit of 15 years or so to migrate, where today you see CIOs that are really very T-shaped, right? And they're business leaders who happen to have deep technology expertise, right? And that's a big difference from what it used to be.
Great. Sorry, I was just giving you the signal. It's time to wrap up now. So we've gone from, the CDO, the outsourcing of DS. There's something around business literacy and perhaps the other kind of literacy. I just don't like to say that word. And it's not the fault of the data scientists. They need, the company needs to define the strategy, sense of ownership. It's a people issue, not process and tech, which we'll come back to. Medieval we're in medieval times up to the Renaissance, and the Medicis sort of saying, just give me value. And data management and integration, there's something lost between data and the data management and the data analytics teams, and then cost and associated failures and so on. So John, with all of that, I'm going to bring you in.
Yeah, exactly.
John's in a great mood today.
Yeah,
I
I think it's, Bill and I have been doing this for 40 years. So I think it's fairly clear, where the solution lies, or at least the next step lies. The failure, I'll go against Bill a little bit. It isn't with the leadership or the business leadership, and it's not with the data scientists. The failure lays squarely with people like me, the analytics leadership. You're not going to get the business to think about data. You're not going to get the business to think about analytics. The business is going to talk about what the business talks about.
Correct.
Supply chain people are going to talk about supply chain issues. Manufacturing people are going to talk about manufacturing. People in marketing are going to talk about customer acquisition and things like that. So every time I go to talk to one of those other people, I switch into their vernacular and their vocabulary. And when I have a data scientist assigned to a project, I spend time with them to pour all that vernacular and vocabulary into their head. So when we're having meetings and we're all there, the data science team is there, we talk about servers and algorithms and integration and all the other things that we love to talk about. As soon as we walk out of that room and we bump into someone in the hall, we immediately convert into talking about supply chain, manufacturing, marketing, pricing, whatever it is. The real problem is that it's in communication. We need, as analytics professionals, to let the business professionals tell us what they need and what they want in their language, and then we convert that into solutions. And then we come back in a nimble time frame and we show them proof of concepts or MVPs or quick rapid turnaround ideas. And I don't buy that it's hard to communicate to the business the value of these things. It's easy. It's pounds, it's euros, it's yen, it's dollars. That's what you talk about. If you go in and talk to someone about, hey, I'm going to help you, speed up your supply chain by 3 days. Well, who cares? When you go in and say, hey, this application is actually going to help you improve your scheduling of the 15,000 employees you're trying to schedule every month, and you're going to get $35 million back at the end of the year. Now you got somebody's attention. This is not hard. It's incumbent on us to make it work.
Thank you, John. And a stroke of reality amongst all of you, actually. And I can see Bill raring to get back. There are some questions here that I just want to bring in, because people are now starting to think about the conversation, start thinking about the responses. And Beth is asking, with the rapid improvements in tech and speed, we are seeing organizations needing to utilize more and more data. But it took us 40 years to get comfortable with our current use of data, going back to history, but maybe not from medieval times. How can we increase the speed of business comfort with the new data and what the AI applications can do for them? So, John, I think it goes back to what you've just said. Some part of the conversation needs to be outlined in a very cost-focused way that a business domain can absolutely understand about their business domain. But that being one thing, Bill is dying to get in here. So I'm gonna ask Bill, what would you say? How do we get the business comfort with the new data and what the AI applications can do for them?
So there's two things to this. So the conversation, and I think it's been alluded to, I think through the talk so far, we got to start talking about value, right? We got to understand, how do organizations create value? What are their business initiatives? And what are the KPIs and metrics against what you're going to measure progress and success? If you start there, you're speaking their language, like John said, right? And you immediately transition into somebody who's there to help them, not someone who's there to confuse them. But I want to also build on a point that John was making. This is not, for the business, a one-time meeting. They show up, they throw up what the requirements are, and they disappear. This is a collaborative journey.
Yeah.
There's going to be multiple steps along this process. Who are the people who probably understand the variables, metrics, and features that are better predictors of performance given the problem you're trying to solve? Who are those? It's not the data science team. It's not your senior executives. It's a front line to the organization.
SMEs.
If you wanted to know, if you wanted to know what we could do to really help address COVID and build a COVID at-risk score for everybody in the world, who do you talk to? Don't talk to the data scientists. Don't talk to the head of the hospital. Talk to the nurses. Talk to the doctors, right? So this is a journey that requires constant collaboration between all different stakeholders throughout the process. Like John said, you're going to try things, you're going to come back, you're going to try, and you've got to be able to have that. You've got to be able to leverage that natural intuition that people have at the front lines about the business. Sorry, John had a point.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to extend and reinforce what you're saying, Bill. That what I see over and over again is that, new people show up at my office, vice presidents of this, vice presidents of that. And then we talk about how we're going to collaborate, how they're going to dedicate people to the team, how we're going to work together for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. And I say, look, we'll do this project for you and we'll give you the number you seek. It's 7 or 12 or 13 or whatever it is. But what I want you to think about while we're doing this first project is that we want to do ongoing programs. We want to be driving insights into your organization to where you are going to consider that impact of transitioning and transferring and re-engineering your processes based on data and insights. So, like you talked about, Mark talked about the Medicis and Leonardo. You earn the right through the project to then become engaged in an ongoing program. And that's exactly what Bill was saying. I just wanted to reinforce that.
Yeah, I think the idea of proving value, proving the numbers. Let's get this word value out of the way because it's just meaningless now. Everybody uses that word.
Value is an important phrase.
Bill, everybody uses that word all the time, and no one knows. No one really defines it.
But it's not about using it all the time. It's the misuse of the word.
The misuse.
Right?
Okay, the misuse.
And
yes.
the gratuitous bullshit use of the word. Right. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so the reality is that value is always ultimately a distillation down to dollars, pounds, euros, yen, whatever, right? There are a lot of precursors to value up the chain from that, right? But value is not an abstraction at the end of the day, not in business anyway, right? It also, though, has multiple aspects to it that you cannot ignore. So speaking for myself as a CMO, right? I was engaged with the analytics team. I had my own analytics team, right? Because of the fact that it could help us plan and predict and prove and pivot our way through, right, to value. But I'm human, right? So they were also making me as the leader look really smart, right? So is that value? Well, yeah, in the sense that basically I kept on going up the corporate ladder. I kept on earning more money, right? And all this kind of stuff, right? So, at the risk of sounding mercenary and self-centered, I would submit to you that that is part of the equation for any leader, right? And if data science becomes the indispensable team, so to speak, right? The eye in the sky that makes a lot of other things possible. And again, this is a journey, as everyone has said.
There's another word.
Yeah, yeah, well, it is. I mean, life is a journey, right? And this is the fact that everyone uses that metaphor constantly doesn't mean that it's suddenly not true.
It just it's noise after a while. And I think, I think there's something here that I just want to touch on. There's something about, and I was at a conference today, and there's still something about this whole idea that in the way that the data teams work together, in the way that they are supposedly sitting side by side, but we still have this separation. I still see some organizations saying, well, the data team sits here and the analytic team sits there. And why is that? Why is that the case? Why have we kind of separated these two entities? Because surely they need to work. They need to work in terms of data processes. They need to understand lineage. They need to understand, what data is of good quality. They need to understand what privacy principles need to be sewn into models that are driven and so on. Why is there still this half-assed approach to, but I'll let someone come in here.
Okay, yeah. So first, I want to kind of address the previous point about value. So what people mean when they say value is usually a benefit, or morely a potential benefit that they are not able to quantify. And now a lot of people say, you know, value is not just dollars and pounds and euros. Yes, it is not. However, the ability to express them in dollars and pounds shows you how clearly you are able to understand value. And value is not what data science creates. That is just one part of it. So we are talking about an engine and horsepower. It doesn't matter if you cannot convert that into a mileage. So value and commercial value, when we talk about commercial value, we don't talk about the horsepower of the engine that data science can produce, but we talk about the mileage that a vehicle can get. And coming to the second point, we say, I think a lot of that is because data science is being promoted, or maybe kind of started off more as a technology. You know, if you see, you know, what Hadoop came in and said, now you have big data, and now we have bigger platform, so you can do X, Y, Z. Again, same problem. If you measure value as benefits, if you showcase value as benefit, you end up with technology. Every technology has benefits. Every technology has value, but not every technology can provide value in the final mile. And this is where we are getting stuck.
Yes.
Right? Because the final mile don't understand value delivery, value realization, value capture. Once we understand, when people say value, they talk about value creation, value discovery. This is just the top part. The real money is in the value delivery and value capture. Can you do that?
Yeah. And it's a great point, because I think the last mile, that final mile of delivery, is where things break down. And perhaps, you know, it's in the translation, it's in the comfort zone, it's in the expression of really trying to make a decision or take an action. And I think that's something that still is lost. Mark talks about OODA, you know, people talk about, you know, value-driven decision-making and so on. But I think there is a disconnect where someone talked on the chat, we need to start with the end in mind. Absolutely, agreed. Work backwards, but absolutely understand what it is that business domain, let's take, you know, supply chain, what is their problem, but what action or decision do they essentially need to make in order for them to pivot in market conditions, environmental factors, political regulation, and so on. So John, John's put his hand up. I'll just go to John.
So I think one of the things we're talking about, and Mark alluded to it in the chat, is that, you know, the analytics team is out on the creative end of it. You know, and they do data work. You know, we go out and find new data sources, we bring them together, we integrate them together in unusual and novel ways, and we build all sorts of models, and we try to prove that these approaches and this data will provide value. Now, the data organizations are usually on the practicality side of things. They're trying to load things up, they're going to be of useful value, they're going to be used every day. They have to deal with systems that are certified and governed and you know, in the INT or IT environment. So I don't see it as a problem that you've got them split, because the analytics team is going to be focused mostly on front-end innovation and creativity and trying to define new value, and the data team is going to be more on the repetitive operational side of the business.
Okay, so you're saying one's a factory and one's the creation machine. Okay, but what happens when the factory decides that we're going to do an MDM program and it's going to take 6 years to do, but you don't get the right data that you need because it's just too difficult to do that? Then what happens? So
well, you don't run the data ingestion part of it through the data team. The analytics team does that themselves.
Right, but in some cases it's not always done that way. You might be doing it, John, that way, but I think operating models aren't necessarily fixed and set in the ways that we think in a lot of organizations.
If you're allowing a multi-year project to gate the speed at which you do innovation, then you've got your organization.
Then you know where it is. Absolutely.
You're screwed already.
Yeah, but this is actually a factor in many organizations. It's a factor. So both sides get frustrated. Mark, you were going to jump in there.
No, I'm just going to, one of the frustrations that I have in a lot of conversations with some data scientists, right, is that they're not behaving like scientists. The reason why the last mile is always the most perilous point is because they didn't start there. That's not their anchor, right? Their anchor is at the other end of the spectrum around data management, right? And that's a very, if anyone who's ever wrangled data understands the problem there. And so the bias that the profession has in that direction is totally understandable, but it does not help the profession at all, right? So by the time you get to the final mile, assuming that the atmospherics in the marketplace or whatever haven't changed.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. That should be, output at that point. Right. And so I have a real issue with people who say, well, it always falls apart in the last mile, because if you're following the scientific method of inquiry, it won't, period. It just won't.
And is it the approach then? Is it the fundamental approach that people are taking? I was speaking to a data scientist today. He says that many people have forgotten the age-old CRISP DM, format and framework. So, do we do more of that and make sure we can come back to a framework of sorts that, we do go through the iteration, but actually really focused on the science, as you said, as opposed to this creativity and, as others have mentioned.
Well, I think a lot of the last mile problems are in the fact that it's not communicated well. The last mile is actually the most important collaborative step between the business, data science, data management, IT, and production systems.
Right.
Everybody's involved.
The latter piece, the latter piece I think is important. What you touched on, John, is the production systems. And I think maybe when their scale starts to work, the model doesn't work effectively enough, and therefore the people are confused by the results, and therefore the business person or line of business doesn't necessarily know what to do next. And therefore, there are issues there, right? Because it's never been set up for that scalability. Okay, that's right. Probably a general problem. Mark, you had your hand up, and I'll bring you in next, Tom. Sorry about that. I'll bring you in next.
No, I mean, I would just say that, again, I'm not trying to say who's right and wrong. I'm trying to point to issues, right? So my experience is that business leaders usually can rattle off the questions that they would love to have
to answer. Yep, right? They can.
And they can do that in record time.
In speed time. I've seen it.
Yeah. Time. This is not hard, right?
No.
What happens, they get really frustrated with the fact that data science to them appears to be a culture of exceptionalism, meaning that, right, there's always a reason why it can't be done. There's always a 90, we can't reach 95% certainty, confidence scores, right, on this, to which the business goes, dude, if you modeled my everyday decisions, you'd be in the 20s and 30s. So who cares, right? If you can get me twice that over time, this is a major win for me, right? So there's all of these things that separate these two perspectives that at the end of the day, right, as a leader, I had to say to myself, it's going to be far easier for me to change, to learn about data science and learn that culture than to ask them to change first, right? And so that's what I did, but it didn't let them off the hook. In fact, the more informed I became as an internal customer, the more problematic I became, right? In some ways, right? And because I could pierce through the bullshit, right? And so I just think that this is a both and it's you have to remember that the business leaders are not going to understand the data science ever, right? Anyone who believes the hype around AI, that you could drop it in a data lake and everything would magically happen, right? I mean, that's a religious belief. That is not science. That is not.
But that's the marketing engine by many vendors that has been created. This, this puff of smoke, this magic that will happen once you plug and play, and in seconds you'll get what you need. To Somil, because he's been waiting patiently, and I want to bring him in.
Yeah. No. So one of the things which I it's a bit controversial.
Do it.
But I don't think data science is meant for CEOs and C-suite. It's meant for people who are making the decisions day to day, like Bill said, the nurses and the doctors and the supply chain managers and logistics managers. Because if you build analytics for a CEO or a CXO, you're maybe improvising one decision. But the moment you bring it down to people who are actually making thousands of micro decisions every day, you actually transform those thousands of decisions. The value delivery is happening when you are acting on the decision, right? Data science is not a magic pill. It's an exercise regime. It doesn't work until you do. So if people are afraid of making decisions, it doesn't work. And I think large part why it is happening, I think ITification of business is to blame. There's a quote from Dark Knight that says you either die a hero or you live long enough to become a villain. I think ITification has now lived long enough that it has now become a disabler. And that is why businesses, they are basic. And you see what IT is built on the command and control hierarchy, command and control structure. It just reinforced that command and control. Now, what business leaders need to do is they need to let go. Because you have to accept that the person who is interacting with the customer, the person who is interacting with your vendor, they have a much better idea. And they also have the power to do something about it. Looking at all the data. I mean, for you, BI is enough. If you just want to see what happened last month, BI is enough. You don't need AI.
Yep. True.
Those guys need AI because they have to make decisions every day. I think this is the basic. I think we've gone wrong somewhere along this way.
That's why, yep. And hence why we keep getting ourselves muddled up. There is a question here by Steve Nevin. Do the business and data scientists need to spend time sharing knowledge like the Google 10% of the time? Like the Google, bridge the communication and context chasm. I think so. I think they definitely need education. Both sides need to come together. Bill, you talked about it in a post a few days ago, where you used the term data literacy for a whole bunch of things, which I do disagree with. I don't think data literacy can be the word that covers a whole raft of AI, ML, aspects. So, how much education do we need up front? Somel just said the business people don't really need to know what data science is. John said that. So how much do we actually need to generate in terms of education and upskilling?
None.
From John. Anybody else want to check their responses in there or not?
What data science does in the business, I think that if you can understand a very simple way, you take this and it does that. I think everybody is intelligent enough,
right? But
understand that.
We're continuously told, and I think John says we don't need to educate people, but I actually think we do, because if we don't educate those people, they will never really understand one another.
We are educating, right? But not what data science is, but what data science does.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you need to educate a business person on, K-means clustering algorithms. I don't care as a business person.
Most of the AI for business program today is just a dumbed down version of data science for data scientists. That doesn't gonna work. Business guys have a different need. Similarly, you cannot just dumb down an analytics dashboard and call it a business dashboard. That doesn't work. It's a different user persona. They have a different point of view, very proposition.
Go ahead, John.
My perspective is that you can put up data literacy courses and tell people they've got 10% to learn and all this other kind of stuff. It never works. It's bullshit. It never works. No one takes the time to do that crap. The way it works is that you have combined teams. You have data scientists working with business professionals. The data scientists learn the business through osmosis because they have to. And the business professionals learn, as Somel said, about the how of data science. And they learn that by exposure. That's how you teach people. Putting up classes and having people go online and do this and do that, that's a waste of time.
It's a tick box exercise.
When you learn in context, you're never going to go as a business professional say, hey, I'm a data scientist. But you will say, hey, I was on a data science project and I really understood how it worked.
Okay, Bill, jump in.
Yeah, so I disagree entirely that data literacy is not important. It's okay, right?
I love it. Come on, let's go for it.
There's a lot of components, right? For example, one important component that I think about with my children is data awareness. How is their data being used and collected and used against them to influence their decisions and their views? We need to teach that. Within organizations, we need to teach something around, I'll call decision literacy. How do you make decisions? Lori had talked about this in one of our previous podcasts, right? Well, people aren't taught how to make decisions. And by the way, we make models in our head when we make decisions. Some of them are rules of thumbs, but right? There's also this idea, Samuel, you said it really well, AI, ML literacy. You don't need to code a neural network, but you should understand what it does and how, by the way, it's being used against you to drive confirmation bias. One, Mark, you and I've talked about, prediction literacy. People don't understand how to make decisions based on probabilities, right? You're not going to have 100% when you're trying to make decisions about the future. Is Aaron Judge going to hit home run number 62? Probably, but there's a probability factor. And then the last component of data literacy is around ethics, and which has to be factored about how are people using data. So this is beyond the scope of this.
So
probably,
you're right, but there are so many levels there, Bill, that one has to kind of discover, think about, move into, have a conversation with the other person on the other side of the table, and can often get confusing because now they've got to take on this whole new big fancy world, and it's difficult for them, right?
But that's the go ahead, Mark.
No, I'm just going to also pose this because I really agree with what Bill was saying, but there is one thing that trumps it all if you're a business leader, okay? And that is the speed, the latency of the analytic as an aid to decision-making, better decision-making, right? So you can have everything from a data science perspective totally lined out and totally nailed, okay? And if you are outside of the clock speed of the business in terms of generating the analytics, it will not matter. You will be 100% irrelevant, right? Unless they want to do a history book about the past ROI and stuff. That's about the only way that it's going to be relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Where we see this a lot at Proof, right, is people are so frustrated, they'll get the analytics and even the freaking forecasts are in the past by the time they review it, right? And so there's no way for them to leverage it at all. And so we can talk all we want to, as we should, okay, about how to do it, the culture gaps and all this kind of stuff. But if you're not making it possible for the business team, and I use that word, as Samil was talking, I use that word very expansively, right? All the way from the strategy decisions at the top, linking all the way down to the tactical decisions at the edge. If you're not helping that happen in a relevant time frame, okay, none of it matters. It literally doesn't matter.
I think John wanted to say something. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Bill, but I want to put some context around it in that what I'm saying is that people who are running a business right now, like Mark was just talking about, are not going to go to these classes. What Bill, I think, is talking about, Professor Smarty Pants, is that we need to actually teach, data literacy, decision science, all the stuff in elementary school and middle school and high school and in colleges.
Yep.
I'm on the advisory boards of 4 major universities, helping them redo their curriculums around data science. Yeah. And a lot of it has exactly what Bill's talking about. This is not a quick fix. This is not something that's going to happen in a checkbox kind of situation. This is a cultural change that will have to happen over the next 20 to 30 years. This is a big problem. This is not just going to happen with, doing something on Coursera.
And you can see that in organizations because this thing called data culture has been spun up, but actually it's not a data culture issue. It's a cultural issue. And that's why I think you're addressing, John. Many people talk about data culture as a way of, separating to me the data teams and how amazing they are to, they don't know what's going on. So let's build a data culture so we can speak our own language. I think there needs to be, to go back to the point of, bringing in a common language set and so on. We've got some amazing points and a lot of collaboration as always. And this, the speed at what Mark said, I can't keep up with the comments because my machine keeps going a bit funny. But prediction literacy, how to understand and act upon decisions. Speed isn't just DS fast, it's org fast. That's what Beth says. We are still seeing companies dealing with data literacy and abolishing barriers in the data management DM process. And they are talking about data mesh that must be established now. So again, people are running ahead without establishing processes. You talked about it earlier, Mark, that, people, it's the people issue and it's not process or tech. I think it's fundamentally a process issue in many organizations because they don't actually factor in how we're going to embed this into a process. How are we going to, not just into a data process, but how does the data process affect the business process? How do we start to reline, streamline, and make sure things can go fast in a business sense and also fast in a data sense? So I think there's something there that process isn't really being looked at.
But I also think that Bill is 1000% right on.
Don't say that about Bill.
Don't feed him
We
that.
won't be able to. His head
I mean,
is going to be too big.
You gotta pay your tribute, right? You gotta,
Oh my goodness!
You gotta
mute Mark. Mute Mark.
Yeah. So here's the one of the most transformational things that I've ever heard, okay, about this whole thing is something that Bill Schmarzo said to me almost a year ago, right?
Homage to Bill.
The difference between the economics of scale and the economics of learning, right? And how there is also this perpetual relationship between the two, but one is always out front, right? The learning is always the major value creator, but you have to also be able to scale it, right? And make that available to the most people, right? And scale is also a matter of speed, right? Latency, right? So all these things kind of come together to create that value. And yes, value is or the precursors of value are very much in the eye of the beholder. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, if you just want to make it really, really tactical for a second, one person in their annual review, because of being analytics led, right, they get a promotion and they get a raise, okay? Now, it's more than that. They get praise from their boss, probably repeatedly across the year. They get all kinds of stuff, and the team starts to say, wow, this person's really, going somewhere and all. So that's precursors to value. But the actual value realized is I got a promotion, I got a raise, right? And I did it on the back of being analytics led, right? So I think that
and by that you mean analytics led and not data driven, as we all have come to use
data, honestly,
this ridiculous term.
I love alliteration as much as the next guy, right?
Yeah.
Data driven is crap, right? You know why? It's because data is exclusively about the past, right? So if you're data driven, you're past driven, right? You're driving the car forward, looking in the rearview mirror, right? Yeah. Do you really want to be data driven?
Yeah,
I don't
most
think
organizations do because they've been told that. Somil, you've got a point to make.
I think one more point here is that when it's interesting that the Pareto principle holds, right? We have 20% of the things that happen 80% of the time. Now, what that means is that the data that you have in your system, 80% of it, actually reflects only 20% of the use cases that you have been doing. That means it's a whole 80% new scenarios that you have not even explored, that you have not been able to fulfill, that you have not even taken to customers because you were not able to, right? So I think from a value perspective, this is a great point. I mean, we look at the data, it gives you a slice of all your capability is. But if you look at the true capability of every organization, it's just a recombination of capabilities and assets that they have. There is phenomenal amount of potential value to be generated, to be realized, and for organizations to really do so much more. I mean, I just get goosebumps.
Somil, I think you're right. What has happened is that everybody has been taken on this journey by this marketing machine, okay? They've layered in reams and reams of technology. They've been told that they're going to have utopia in a second. And what actually has happened is they are sitting on a gold mine. And you're right, Sommel. They don't realize how to get that gold mine out. Now, the data scientist was there to help them to do that. Yeah. But I think there's another factor that we're not looking at here. Okay. The factor is around what someone mentioned earlier on. We have two classes of leadership here. We have the C-suite, right? And somewhere in that C-suite, but not actually always in that C-suite, is this thing called the CDO or the CDAO, the Chief Data Officer or the Chief Data Analytics Officer. Look, they've combined those two together, the Chief Data and Analytics Officer, which is more common in the US. What has happened with that leadership? We've heard that the tenure of the CDO is going down. John, I think you're probably closest to a CDAO on this round here. What is happening to that point in leadership? You know, where is that responsibility that the CDO or the CDAO needs to take from either a domain specific or across the enterprise? The education sphere, we're talking about people who are supposed to be brought in to evangelize. What's happened? You know, it doesn't seem to be making it in the way that it was supposed to be making it.
Yeah, because because the you know, the hope was too large. You know, the marketing message or the you know, the bill of goods that was sold was just unobtainable. You know, what I see going on now is CDOs are you know, defensive positions. You're stacking up data, cleaning up data.
Right, the data governance position.
are more offensive positions where you're actually being analytics led, like Mark has been saying. And part of the problem is that everybody does what they're more comfortable with. They go with the CDO first. And then, of course, they never achieve the goals because there's no analytics involved. So the whole thing has just failed from the beginning. And part of the failure is you're stuffing it into the IT department too. You're putting it under, you know, the CIO, which of course it's going to fail, you know, for all the reasons Somil said earlier in the discussion. So if you really want this to work, you need to have some kind of focus on analytics led. It needs to be a C-suite position reporting to the CEO or the COO. And you need to have that conversation across the C-level and the VP levels where you're driving change, where you have an analytically led data transformation or projects or programs. The way we're doing it now is just, it's going to fail. And we know, and we see it.
And we get the rep, we get the bad rep, we can't. So the other point that Bill made earlier is that it's the business that needs to define the strategy. I agree with you, Bill, there. You and I agree on something today. You know, and that sense of ownership. But why is it that many organizations do not set up their strategies? Why is it that many organizations don't really come from that angle? And is it spin or is it what John is saying? The fact that, you know, they are under IT, they are under the influence of infrastructure, or let's just build shit, as somebody just said. You know, what is it, Bill?
So why is the CDO so disconnected from the business? I'm trying to make sure I understand the question.
Couple of things. Why is it that the CDO is disconnected, but also why is it, you said the business defines the strategy, right?
Yeah, and
but actually, just wait. Actually, the CDO is brought in to define the data strategy or the data and analytics strategy. So
in relationship to the business strategy, right? The CDO is developing a data analytics strategy
absolutely
in support of the business strategy.
Always.
And there probably is some sort of connect from the business strategy to the data strategy. There should be. The problem is that at the strategy level, how many organizations spend a lot of time pushing strategy decisions and their strategies down to the lay people? Does the barista at Starbucks really understand what Starbucks is trying to do from a company perspective? And these things become important. So I
don't like Starbucks coffee, so I don't know.
It's okay. I'm drinking Caribou, because I have a Caribou closer to me here in Des Moines.
I was going to go off you because you always have your
but
Starbucks
strategy is not an event.
No,
it's an
not.
ongoing process.
Correct.
And I don't think management does a good job of really driving strategy down and helping people understand, hey, what does that mean to me in my day-to-day job?
So therefore, if they don't know that and they can't execute on that, how do we expect the data scientists to do their job within that? Which is what I agree now with you, Bill. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Bingo.
Bill, you and I are same page. But yeah, so I think, you know, these strategies, the business does need to come up with their business strategy. You're absolutely correct. But if the CDAO or the CDO needs to come up with a strategy that defines how we will move how we will shake, how we will utilize data and analytics. Remember, it's data and analytics, or some people call it data analytics, to drive that value-driven viewpoint, results, hard cash dollars. Why aren't they doing it?
Well, let me be Mark for a second.
Okay.
You know, you have to have the business strategy, and then from there you layer in the analytics strategy, and from that the data strategy falls out. That's the way it works.
And then after that comes your infrastructure, right? And all the technology. Everything else falls out at the bottom.
Under it. So yeah.
And as you get further down that stack, it becomes less valuable. So your insights buried out of the data are much more valuable than the data, which is much more valuable than whatever hell you've got underneath it.
You should see my strategy framework, Bill. You'd love it. Anyway,
but just one point. We need a way to communicate these, because the business strategy and the tactical strategy and the data strategy, there's a transformation going here. So we need a framework, we need a way to communicate this so that we don't lose the threads, we don't lose the context as we go down from top. I think that's what's happening. A lot of people, they are not translating like organization strategy into a business strategy, into a data strategy. The translation has to happen, and you need framing context.
So I think it goes back to a number of things. It goes back to this triumvirate. How do they work together? How do they exist so that they can not have? So I've been into organizations where they have a digital strategy, they have an IT strategy, they have an enterprise strategy, and they have all these things going on, but actually nothing is connected to each other. Right. So therein lies the problem. Mark, you wanted to come in earlier, but John took your thunder.
Oh, no, John did a great job. Right. So, I mean, yeah. But, you know, I just, at the end of the day, the only way that this is going to get fixed in any reasonable amount of time is to realize that you've got to pursue different investments with different timelines, right, simultaneously. This is where the minimum viable model idea really cuts a lot of ice, okay? And remember, the mega model thing is done as far as the business leaders are concerned.
Yeah.
Not even remotely interested, okay? What they really want is, I have this very specific question. It has a dependent variable, right? And it has multiple independent variables that need to be specified. And I want to understand and iterate that very compact and focused model and get an answer that delivers value to me, right? And then I want you to do that across a whole bunch of other questions and federate the models when necessary and all that kind of stuff, right? But that kind of stuff can be done very quickly. And it will really, it's like a painkiller, okay? It will take the edge off of the problem, right? But if you keep on just saying, you know, sorry, we won't be able to generate any gasoline from this crude oil called data because we're going to be spending all this time, money, and effort over the next 10 years building refineries and distribution first, right? You're going to lose.
Yeah. So I think this is what's happening with operating models. This is what's happening with these new types of approaches like data fabric and data mesh and things like that, where people are attempting to push it down towards the business in the domain, give them that innovation, give them that creativity, be able to then co-opt these teams together that can help each other to prize out, you know, and answer those business questions. When that's not the utopia that most organizations can get to. There has been conversations about data mesh, and we're so immature in many organizations that it will be time to get there. Sorry, go on, John. So one question what is the best operating model that we must work under in order for this to happen in a way that people will get the benefit, to go back to a term that Sommel used, entitled value, but essentially get those dollars at the end of it and the actions that they need to take? John, what is the right operating model that we need to define?
I'd love to give a concrete answer, but it's
we'd all be billionaires.
Like how long's a piece of string? And, you know, is the same question. It's you know, I've been very vocal about what I think is an optimal model, that you have an organization that reports to the CEO or the COO that's at a level that they can talk to their peers and have strategic impact and the ability to change. you know, analytically driven data transformation. That's really what it's all about. The reason I raised my hand is that we're at 12:10, so we got 20 minutes to go.
Yep.
So if each of us take 5 minutes and praise Schmarzo, then that'll take us to the end of the session.
I could take more than 5 minutes, John.
Yeah. Yeah.
No way. So there's no way. You've not given me 5 minutes of praise across everything combined.
Yeah, but I think we you know, everyone, you know, if we kind of
Mark will be first in the line for that, won't he?
Yeah, if we approach it though like a true 360 review, right? There has to be balance. So each of us gets 2.5 minutes to praise and 2.5 minutes to give it.
Yeah.
I'm not getting any minutes to praise Bill.
Using all 5 to put me in my place. I understand it.
Look, so I'd like to bring some questions. I'd like to bring some responses in from people because they have been coming.
The chat's been great.
It has been, you know, so we can go back to good point, John, move analytics closer to the business leader rather than the CIO. Absolutely. Do something with data is not a business strategy. Strategy is one of the worst communicated pieces of work in many organizations. 80% of employees don't understand it, not conducive to getting the intended results. That's from Steve. Common language, still a key. Have you ever seen finance and marketing attempt collaboration from Ed?
I love that one.
Yeah. Maybe, good point, Samir. Maybe they need a super strategy for all the strategies. Focus on this first. I don't know, Mike. I think we might destroy the brains inside many of these organizations. Beth says aligned strategy. We forget that we are all working to a common goal, and each org capability may need incremental change for the whole to be successful. I think that's absolutely true. You know, pieces of the puzzle coming together. And maybe this goes back to the age-old thing, reducing business complexity to simplicity for speed and effectiveness of implementation. That's what Mike said in terms with a question mark at the other end. So perhaps we need to reduce business complexity, but how can we reduce business complexity when we have a complex market, when we have complex environment, when we have complex conditions, and we have complex technology? How can we do that? That's
I do think it is possible. It's not really that hard to do. You know, take things back to first principles and build them up from there. So businesses are complicated. Yes. Get it. But
so first principles
start with the basics.
Right. Go on. No, I was just going to ask what your first principles is.
Well, you know, make more money than you spend, I think is a good place to start, you know, and
yes,
you know, look at the component parts, look at your marketing mix, look at your manufacturing strategy, look at your supply chain, take those all down to the bare metal and build them up from there.
Yeah. How much can organizations do that given the disarray that they're in with the amount of investments they've made?
Anybody who's smart and focused can do it.
Do we have to go back to pure business architecture to drive that out?
No,
to simplify? Go ahead, Mark.
We keep on complicating this, and it acknowledges the fact that this is a complex world that we live in, right? And particularly right now, highly volatile, change is moving really, really fast. The human brain can't really handle more than about 3 variables. And if any one of those is heavily time lagged, it just melts. Okay.
Well, Bill can handle hundreds.
Yeah. Now that's actually something that's why he moved back to Des Moines, right?
Sorry, go ahead, Mark. I'm just, you know.
But I mean, I think that the reality here is that for the business who is paying the bills, okay, at the end of the day, right? This is a navigation problem. It all comes down to, I need to know I'm on a journey from where I am to where I need to go. And I need to know where I stand in that journey. And I need something that's going to also kind of track all the major factors that I don't control that are swirling around me, and give me a recommendation at the right time to reroute.
Yes.
Right.
So this is, somebody said they want a business GPS. Oh, that was you, Mark. They want a business GPS.
And they do.
Can I build on that? Because I think
Go ahead, Bill.
example is great. Think about a GPS system. it simplifies the real world, right? I don't have all the rocks and the trees and the bushes I drive around. It's totally taken a very complex environment, and instead of building something complex to navigate it, it actually has gone that opposite direction. It's taken a very simple map, simplified it up to a very high level, and as Mark said, it gives you very clear directions on how to get from where you are to where you want to be.
But equally, it tells you when there's problems coming along, so that they reroute you
and give you recommendations.
Yeah,
it's
and I think
it's a great analogy.
Yeah, I think Mark actually makes a good point around the road, this destination, this roadmap, this prioritization that Beth talks about. How do we know what we need to get? And I think it goes back to, again, people need to show the result. They need to know what they need for investment, and therefore the business will lay that out. But without really understanding what results they're going to get through that proof of concept, through that proof of value, whatever you want to call it, they need to do that first. Because I don't think many organizations are going to spend millions on shit now. So John put his first hand up first.
This is probably the most asked question that I get in the last 2 years, is how do you decide what to do first? Yes. And I think it's the easiest question in the world. Yes. It's like, okay, do you have enough customers? So too. Are you charging the right price?
Correct.
Are you profitable enough? Are you having trouble entering a market? You know, exactly, Bill. You know, it's
Bill's prioritization matrix.
You sit down with a business leader and they will tell you, after you get through talking about daughters and dogs and coffee, you know, the first thing out of their mouth will be what they're suffering from. That's what you work on.
Mm-hmm. Right. So how do we make...
I want to add on to this.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think just to continue what John says, so understanding what the problem is, but really exploring that problem space. And I think we don't just need GPS, we also need better maps. There's one map that you have that IT provides, and that shows you the major highways that people usually take. But a lot of value, a lot of gold mines are not on that route. You need to actually go identify. I mean, how many times it has happened that you have a park and then the Google shows you a map around the park and it doesn't show you the route that is through the park. Opportunities will be there through the park, right? So that means we need to start discussing the problem. The actual strategy actually was not about solution. It's about understanding the problem, framing the problem. Once we start understanding the business and framing the business, framing the process of why we are doing things the way we are doing, why are we taking this route and not something else, I think we will start have a better understanding of the map of the domain. I think navigation is not just about GPS, also about building new maps. IT has given you a rudimentary map, but you go with that map and then you build your own map. That's how you're gonna find. You're not gonna find a gold mine alongside a highway. You have to go deep into the jungle, understand the terrain, go into that terrain, and then you will find that. So I think creating new pathways, I'd say, is more important. Creating new maps is more important. GPS is there. That is the technology. That's the data science that we have. That will be there for you.
I think we're keeping Bill up.
What I don't understand about Bill is that my app here says that it's 74 degrees in Des Moines,
and he's got his scarf. Well, he's obviously, you know, I don't know what the scarf says. Okay,
Hawkeyes.
so
it's 63, but that's okay. It says 63.
We're at the 20-minute. We're at the 20-minute mark. There's, you know, does the team think that self-analysis is the key to change? Whoa, Mike, that's a deep question. Self-analysis.
No. And the reason why is we always see ourselves in a distorted way, no matter what the topic.
So we all have to be shrinks, basically, I think. So we've got 10 minutes left. I'm going to start with Mark, and we're going to go through final words from you, each of you, couple of minutes, and then we'll wrap up. Mark, go ahead.
So I mean, I just think that pragmatism right now is, so I mean, I'm an ex-marketer, right? So I love creativity, and I'm a historian, and I love to explore stuff that hasn't been seen, texts that haven't been read in hundreds of years, right? I totally get it, right? But the pragmatic approach is what's going to get this thing back on track. And I think that today, in a digital universe, the GPS is really the thing, right? Because it includes a map, not only a map, but a current updated version of the map, right? Whereas if you look at a printed map, you know, I've got one here in Arizona that it was printed in 2002. I can guarantee you it is not current. And if I used it to navigate, there's going to be some trip somewhere that's I'm going to get bit in the butt, right? And so the GPS, I mean, the thing about a GPS too, if you're a human being, right, is that with the GPS, you're never truly wrong. Okay, so men totally get this, right? You never want to have to ask for directions, right? Okay, because it implicitly means that you don't know your stuff and that you're probably wrong. Okay, the thing about a GPS is that it's self-correcting, right? It's correcting you on a perpetual basis. It's optimizing you on a perpetual basis. And so you're gonna get there. You might be a little late, right? But you're never gonna be wrong. I also think that one of the key things out of the GPS analogy in real life is that it was about 8-9 years ago or so, when they started giving you the elapsed time, the time lag, the countdown to arrival, right? And when they did that, the confidence level in the GPS soared, use soared, right? Because when you turn into the parking lot and it goes to 0, you're like, damn, it really knew what it was talking about, right? And so you trust it more. I think that at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about for a business leader. They don't want to make a bad decision. And so much of business decisions are time lagged, right? And time lag is the #1 obstacle to understanding impact. So this is where like something as basic as regression is so key, right? Because I mean, you get the time lag piece right out of it. And so I just think that that's the way I would sum it up. There's so many other aspects of it, but if you want my view as a business leader, that's where it comes. That's where the rubber hits the road.
So
right?
pragmatism, GPS, that map, speed, and knowing when you're going to get there.
Yeah.
John, final words, please.
Yeah, I think the conversation for me, as many conversations do, come down to, you know, pragmatism, just like Mark was talking about, and practicality. You know, we have all sorts of conversations, and people do bring ideas to me on a regular basis that are really nothing short of magic. You know, people come and say, can you understand the, you know, mindset of the 1 million customers that are going to walk through the door in the next year? And I'm like, no, I don't have neural implants in all 1 million people. So no, that's a magic project. That's alchemy. That's not data science. I can do a lot of interesting things, but it all is around data. So I think practicality, pragmatism, you know, having a sense of urgency and immediacy, and being able to deliver results to people that they can believe and use is really some of the you know, the takeaways from this discussion. There's a lot of noise out there that you can get taken off your game quite easily by the technology, marketing, and all the other hype that's out there. But if you stay true to the fact that you want to deliver impact to the business, you want it denominated in some kind of currency, and you want it now, you will be successful.
Great. And I like that. Practicality, sense of urgency, deliver results, and make sure that it's believable, it's trustworthy. And I think focus. So I think those are great points. Somel, off you go. You're next.
So I think I think the value delivery and the last mile is very, very important, that you don't have to just tell that there is value, you have to demonstrate what the value is, how much it is, and how quickly can you make it. I think we have to very soon get into the ROI conversation. And I think it's high time data initiatives, AI initiatives, they start becoming self-sufficient. They should become self-sufficient, right? If you're really creating value, then you don't need to ask money from anyone else. The second point is, I think the navigation part. I think we need to see a lot of the map that we understand from business is built based on this IT enterprise architecture kind of a land map, kind of a, you know, those kind of knowledge base. But I think the new opportunities require us to be more creative, more innovative, start combining our assets and capabilities in new ways. So I think a lot of innovation needs to happen on what are the new ways to create value, what are the new routes that we can take, what are the new tactics that we can deploy that we have not deployed any in the past. They are not part of your ERP solutions. They are not written down anywhere. You have to form a hypothesis, test if it works, and then deploy it. So you have to be more proactive about thinking new ways of actually doing stuff and not just thinking about stuff.
Okay.
And third, I think we need to have more discussions around the problem space, around be more open about, if you don't just nod your head if you don't understand something, ask questions.
Absolutely.
And it's okay not to know everything. Nobody knows everything, right? But the moment you say, I don't know this, and let's figure it out, innovation happens, creativity happens, learning happens. So economics of learning, you have to accept that you don't know everything. You cannot know everything. And it's okay to be stupid, and it's okay to ask questions.
The only person that knows everything is Schmarzo.
Hey, hold on. We haven't got
Unless
to him
you're
yet. So we're talking about value delivery in the last mile, speed and ROI. Gosh, he's bought his gun now. Be self-sufficient. So Somal, I actually like that. The idea that the AI, the ML, whatever it is, I hate these. It's just self-sufficiency. Once they're in, they should start delivering that dollar value, that pound value. Assets and capabilities, using them in different ways and new ways. Being proactive, really drilling down on that problem space and being able to ask questions and not being scared to ask questions. That's what you're saying. The old adage of no question is a stupid question. And the economics of learning, but John would come in with that. And that segue from the economics of learning, Bill Schmarty Pants.
So great conversation. And to me, it always starts by this.
A great host, I know. Yeah.
A great host starts without a great host, we would all suck. But it's true. Think about a great host defines how value is created, right? Right, and that's the challenge we face in the data and analytics space, is we don't understand clearly how the organization creates value. What are the KPIs and metrics against which are going to measure that value creation effectiveness? So the conversation has to start around value, which, by the way, is why I believe the conversation starts around economics, not around data, not around analytics, but it starts around economics. And the second point is that once you understand how it creates value, how we're going to measure it, it's a collaboration. Samir, you said this earlier. It's a collaboration between the business and the data science team to make sure that what the data science and analytics teams are doing is done in support of how the organization creates value. Because again, ties back to the strategy. Yeah. It's really that simple.
That easy.
It's that easy.
Companies are doing it perfectly. Well, you talked about KPIs, value creation, the economic conversation rather than the data and analytics conversation, and the collaboration between the business and the data science teams and various other aspects, I guess, within what you need to understand around the business itself as well and the data itself, and then tie that into the strategy. And I think, you've been great. All of you have done a great and amazing job. I really do think this has been one of the best AMAs that we've had. And those people on the audience, those people who's the audience, you've done a brilliant job of engaging, giving us your ideas, and sharing your thoughts and just being, collaborative, to use that point. But thank you for your time. To all of those in the audience, you've had, I think, one of the best exchanges, or been part of best exchanges that we've had. And Colleen says, an excellent session. Thank you for an excellent discussion, everyone. From Mike, very interesting from Steve. Obviously, everybody's saying I'm a great host, so wonderful. I'll get my TV slot soon. But I just wanted to thank you, Mark, Somil, for being our guests and being vulnerable and being open to sharing your ideas, because sometimes it's not easy to go toe to toe with Bill and John. And sorry, I should say we love Samir. Thank you for that. And look, I wish you all a great day, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening. And we all wake up tomorrow morning with all of those salient points from everybody. and you can listen to it again when you get the email. So I wish you all well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Cheers,
everybody.
everybody.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.